on Coach Tyronn Lue, and he issued a statement saying, I'm going to use this time to focus on prescribed routine and medication, which has previously been difficult to start in the midst of a season. My goal is to come out of it a stronger and healthier version of myself so I can continue to lead this team to the championship we are all working towards. And we welcome you back to Game Time. Rick Hamlet, Greg Anthony, Sekou Smith, Earl Watson, and David Griffin, the former general manager of the Cleveland Cavaliers. And Griff, knowing what you know about Tyronn Lue and the organization, the players there with the Cavaliers, most of them at least, what's your reaction to this scenario? Are you real concerned about Coach Lue?
I'm not, but I'm really grateful that he's taking the time. This will not surprise Earl, who has known him a long time, but Ty is a terrible patient. Most coaches tend to be fairly uncoachable when it comes to taking care of themselves. This is probably something Ty should have done a month or so ago, maybe even in the beginning of the season. He just doesn't follow through on doing the things that the doctors put in place for him to maintain his situation. And so the chest pains come about in the second half the other day, which brings about anxiety, which then brings about more stress, which brings about more inability to sleep, and it all just sort of snowballs on itself. So I'm not terribly worried long-term for Ty, but I am grateful that he is taking the time he is. And the Cavs should be grateful that Larry Drew is the one that's there to take over, because Ty has leaned on him very heavily the whole time he's been there. In particular, out of timeouts, Larry's ability to really guide the offense has been critical as well.
Great points. And Earl, I'd like your take on that. Obviously, being an NBA head coach yourself with the Phoenix Suns, are you concerned about Ty? Where are you at with this?
Well, first off, I've known Ty Lue since we were both in high school in Kansas City. We grew up together. And you just want him to be okay. Coaching is unique because you watch a lot of film, you stay up late, you're in practice, you're trying to get your team the edge to be better, to be well prepared, but you don't work out. So coaches have to do a better job of finding themselves a routine where they take time for themselves, for their body and their mind to heal and to strive through, some type of progression, a healthy progression for balance in life. For T. Lue is an amazing coach, and Larry Drew is also from Kansas City. So two KC guys are at the head of it, and I think they'll be okay. But for T. Lue, get your rest in. He's been great for the game.
Sekou, what do you think from a media aspect? And I know in a scrum you can be as tough as nails. I'm just kidding. But what's your view on this, and how much of that pressure that Griff and Earl are talking about on coaches comes from the media?
Well, I think a ton of it comes on you in Cleveland, and when LeBron is involved. And talking about connections, I dealt with Ty as a player here in Atlanta, and Larry Drew as a assistant coach and head coach. Have known them both for a long time, so I'm glad that that's who he's got to lean on, and maybe Larry Drew can be the one to keep Ty, with a forearm in his chest and tell him to sit back, relax, we got this. But listen, anytime you're in this kind of bubble, with LeBron and all the pressure and the intense scrutiny from the media that comes with it, it becomes a really difficult proposition for all the people in that orbit. And I think we've seen it both in his first stint in Cleveland, in Miami, the way things change from a media perspective. He comes back to Cleveland, you see it again, balloon, the pressure. Griff knows this better than anybody. The interesting thing for me is we talk about these pockets in the schedule and no more 4 and 5 nights and no more this and the other. That works for everybody except the head coach and the front office, because they got to work 365, 24/7. They don't get a break. And, the players get to disappear for a little bit during All-Star weekend, the ones that are not involved. Coaches have to be thinking about what comes next. And I think when you have all of that coming at you as fast as it does, it becomes really difficult to manage your personal business sometimes.
GA, talk to me about that stress, but also on a scale of 1 to 10. Where is this for the Cavaliers in terms of adversity this late in the season?
It's nominal. I don't think it's an issue because philosophically they're not going to change. The issues they had before Ty Lue took this lead, they still have, and they're going to have until they get healthy and see if they can ramp it up defensively. But coaching is stressful, and it really – honestly, it's no more stressful for Ty than any other NBA head coach. You know why? Because they're all going to be held accountable. And if they're not getting the job done, they're going to get fired. And if they get fired, it's going to affect their entire family, because most guys have kids. Then, do they have to move, relocate? So, sometimes all that stuff gets lost. And so not only do they have their own family, your team's your family too. And you've got to deal with all the dysfunction, that team has, right? Each individual player has got his own world that you have to figure out a way to connect with and then get him to connect with the group. There's a tremendous amount of pressure, and it's a year-round job for coaches. It is stressful, and how you deal with it ultimately is going to affect what the outcome is from a health standpoint for you, and it is a challenge. I don't care if you're with Cleveland or Brooklyn. It's a challenge for you as a head coach.
As great as LeBron James is, he has a reputation of being somewhat difficult to coach. And so, Griff, I come to you on that. And again, I mean, he's helping you get to the winner's circle, so there's that angle of it. But in what ways is it challenging to manage and coach a LeBron James?
Well, first of all, I think Greg's point about it being the same concern for every coach is a very good one. I don't think coaching LeBron James comes with any greater sense of urgency or difficulty as coaching anybody else. You just have to be strong enough to let him know when you've got it and when it's under control. And that's why Ty has been so good. Ty's swagger is a great fit for LeBron, and it's why LeBron calls him the captain of the ship. He looks up to him in a way that's really meaningful. So they're a good fit for each other. LeBron's a basketball savant. He wouldn't be easy for anyone to coach because he probably knows the answers at least as well as you do. And so I think one of the things that's really meaningful when you're coaching him is you have to be as passionately connected to what you believe the right thing to do is as LeBron is. And as long as he knows that you have it under control, and Ty has always made him feel very confident in that, I think he's as easy as any other superstar to coach. You know, no superstar is particularly easy. But the other thing that I think is meaningful now is the NBA's gotten to the point where our coaches are very much under the same microscope that NFL coaches have been under. There's never been more social media attention. There's never been more commercially and readily available ability to scrutinize every single decision that gets made. So everything you do is under a microscope, and there is a greater attention paid in Cleveland with LeBron because literally everything he does is a bigger story than virtually any other player in the league.
Earl, talk to those external pressures as a head coach, and did they get to you?
He has different talent than I had. So let's just start there. But I think what T. Lue is facing, T. Lue's a perfectionist. He's not going to take a break. He's going to drive it until he finds the answers, and he holds himself accountable. And to me, that's an amazing, attribute of a head coach. He's going to drive, he's going to search it, he's going to switch it up, and he's going to communicate with his players. He's going to get into their world. He's going to talk to them, and he's going to pick LeBron's ideas to see if they can improve or, change things up on offense or defense. I think coaches have to find a way. Right now this thing of mental health is big for players. It's also important for coaches. They need to find a way to get a therapist or a life coach, however you want to define that person, and have someone you can vent to that's not within the coaching, the assistant coaches, the video guys, someone else who's disconnected from the organization that can help you settle your ideas in life.
So, Sekou and Greg, I want you guys to talk to this. Hornets head coach Steve Clifford missed over a month earlier this season due to a health issue. And now we have Coach Lue dealing with his. Do you feel like this is becoming more of a problem, or has it always been like this?
No, I think it's probably always been an issue. It's one that's being addressed now. And I think about totally different circumstances from a medical perspective, but similar in terms of taking a key figure away from a team. This is more akin to when Steve Kerr was unable, to be on the bench for the Golden State Warriors. You're talking about a team with an expectation level that is through the roof. So there becomes, you could say it's the same for everybody, except for when you look at the expectations. And the expectation in Cleveland, just like in Golden State, like it is in Houston now and some other places, is championship or nothing. And I'm not saying that got to Ty Lue by any stretch, but that has to be factored into it. The other part about this that I really think, you can't minimize is remember the mood and the attitude of those Warriors players when Steve Kerr was out and there was some uncertainty. When you really love your coach and go out there and play for a guy that you feel passionate about, it affects you because you're worried about him, his family, and whatever else comes along with the issues he's struggling with. I don't think we should minimize this at all. I know you can win games and be fine, but in the long run, there's a bigger picture out there for Ty Lue and his team, and it's about his health, and that's what's most important.
Yeah, this is a human issue, too. I mean, these coaches deal with the same stresses that people in other high-stress environments deal with. You know, there's more accountability because there's more attention being paid to you. But that has always existed. You know, this is not new, what's happened with Steve Kerr, obviously with Coach Clifford, and now with Tyronn Lue. It's always been there. There have been many coaches who've dealt with these issues over the course of their careers because it is stressful. I don't care. It's stressful when you're winning. It's stressful when you're losing. You know, and a lot of it also is because as a coach, you don't control your personnel. You know, and so sometimes your philosophy could differ with the front office. Your objectives. Sometimes you want to win, but the front office may not want to. There's all these different elements of stress that can be brought into it, and how you deal with it, to Earl's point, really ultimately determines whether or not you're going to handle it well and be able to move forward.